Hey folks, we're about to load into our first carrier game, for me, in 4 years of World of Warships, in PC or Legend. So I admit I'm a little bit nervous. It's kind of a bizarre feeling for me. I didn't know that I would ever play a carrier game. So we're doing this to get our first impressions, to see how this mode is working. So far so good with getting our consumables and captain and ship configured, and hold on to your butts. We're going to give this a try. So let's cast aside whatever minor worries we have about bruising our ego and jump directly into the exciting elements of the airstrike campaign. So it is a 2-week test event running for 1 week with just tier 3 carriers, and then the second week we'll add tier 5. In our detailed February 2021 patch review, we talked about the 4 ships involved and 2 specific event commanders, one for each nation: Imperial Japanese Navy and US Navy. There are also 3 specific missions associated with Airstrike. First off is New Dimensions 3. That'll be the mission you'll need to run to unlock your Langley and your Hosho if you weren't selected for the early access, which basically is just the difference of a couple battles. And then you will use your carriers to complete a series of Born to Fly missions and surface ships as competition to those carriers to complete the Born to Swim missions, which all told yield you Royal Navy cruisers, so you can unlock in early access some of those heavy British cruisers that are coming to the game with this patch. Sadly, our early access application to get carriers first was summarily denied, but the booby prize in this is that we get to take out a tier 3 or a tier 4 ship, and that choice for me is the USS Texas. So I harken back all the way again to the start of my PC career. I think my first premium ship was the Texas that I got through an affiliate link. So the thing about her is she is like a warm, comfortable blanket of anti-aircraft mounts if she plays anything at all like she does on PC. And look at her picture in the middle, guys. They put an aircraft or anti-aircraft mount pretty much anywhere there was some open deck space. I've always laughed because they put anti-aircraft mounts on top of the main battery mount. So that must have been a fun place to be riding when you were a gunner on one of those mounts on top of a turret. So let's hope that Texas can hold up the way we are accustomed to as we roll into this first match of Born to Swim. Well, it looks like we made pretty short work of that situation in that match. It's pretty much all bots except for a couple of the ships. So I will say the verdict is on Texas. She shows up like a champ against the tier 3 plane. So that is a comfort to me that she actually performs how I would expect Texas to perform from an anti-aircraft perspective. And good news is, in 1 game, we have unlocked our Langley. So all right, the anxiety is building, but it won't have to build for long because we're going to head into building out our Langley and our captain and put out to sea. All right, I'm getting a little bit more adrenaline. Langley is sitting here in our port, and let's see what we can do to get her outfitted to be at her best, whatever that best is in these upcoming battles in airstrike. So we'll hoist a flag and put on some camo. I cannot run naked in whatever mode I'm playing in. That wouldn't be proper. So let's also think about our module choices. I'm going to throw everything against the wall with regard to aircraft performance and see what sticks. We're going to go with Air Groups Modification 1, which will buff our aircraft's guns and I guess give them a little more anti-air capability against enemy squadrons. And Air Groups Mod 2 is a fighter HP and ammo boost. There will be an engine cooling consumable available in battle, which gives us a boost to our engine performance for a short period of time. And we're going to just simply forego any secondary battery buffs on the ships, on these carriers at this point at tier 3. Again, let's go aircraft performance focused 100%. Next up is our commander, Ernest King. And I have to be honest, I didn't know a ton about Ernest, and maybe that's because the bulk of his exploits really happened prior to World War II. He was a naval aviator. In 1926, our Congress passed a law that anyone who was going to command an aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy had to either be a naval aviator or a naval aviation observer. He went the route of getting his wings, and in 1930 became the commander of Lady Lex, the Lexington. But his career really spanned the 10 years prior to World War II primarily, and he became the commander of the North Atlantic Fleet in 1941, and then talked about retirement pretty soon after that. But basically an early pioneer of U.S. naval aviation, so pretty dang cool to have Ernest King commanding our Langley in this first battle. And this is new territory. I have no clue what skills are the best for a CV commander or carrier vehicle commander, so we are going to, again, maximize our aircraft performance at all costs. So first of all, inspirations. This is a little tough. Reizo Tanaka, he has Hull Crusher, which is a torpedo damage buff, so we're going to put him in place. Along with Inigo Campioni, he has Spartan, which reduces ship damage. So that's the only thing we're going to take defensive with regard to our ship or its hull. I don't see any other inspirations that seem very inspiring, to be honest. So this is kind of what we're stuck with at this point. The choices seem pretty limited. From a skills perspective, again, let's buff our planes to the max. It comes with Typhoon. That is one other thing, only one other thing that boosts the ship anti-aircraft capability. So the rest we're going to focus on planes. Swatting It Flies increases our aircraft anti-aircraft capability. Again, similar to what we saw in Module 1. Emergency Power gives a buff to aircraft cruise speed. That'll help us get around the map quicker and spot our enemies quicker as far as surface ships go. And Hidden Threat improves torpedo bomber survival by making them a little less visible and buffing their HP. And Burn Baby Burn. Let's increase the power of our HE bombs and increase their fire chance. And lastly, our legendary skill for Ernest King is Death from Above, which increases the effectiveness of dive bombers. The moment has arrived, and I must admit it's a little bit weird. No, it's really, really weird. We're going to load into our first carrier battle in 4 years of World of Warships. And I definitely would have read the manual or watched the tutorial, but I could not find any. Thank you, WG, so we will make it work. All right, let's go. Okay, looks like we do X to switch between torpedo bombers and dive bombers. I think we're going to start with torpedo bombers. It just seems a little bit easier to aim with that V targeting indicator that you get for torpedoes versus the elliptical indicator that you get for dive bombers. So let's see if that works out to be true or not. How do I take off? Uh-oh. Okay. All right, one of the triggers. Oh my, guys, here we go. Oh, this is a one-plane squadron. No, okay. Forming up. Talk to me, Goose. Alright, so first thing we want to do, obviously, in a CV, I know, is to spot. It's not just to attack, it's actually to give visual information to your team. Someday, hopefully, we'll have some ribbons for spotting indicators. Looks like all of our flight controls are left stick, including... Does that include our speed? Yep. And our first attack run. Let's not do the DD. That could be a little sketch. So torpedoes we want to get side on, so we're going to have to swing. Come on, guys. Kind of in sideways on this cruiser. Oh, the lag between input and control is funky. I guess you have to learn just like rudder. Holy loop-de-loop. Okay. So here's the cruiser. Gonna try to get in now on him. Probably too close. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Let's loop back around. Or we'll just head for this battleship. How about that? Taking a little bit of AA. Okay, now decrease speed and loop in. Oh, too close. Alright, this is not starting well, is it? Wow, the lag of coming around and banking is very different from what I expected. How do we get lower? Oh, one's for the reticle. Hey, we dropped torps. Alright, it didn't get a hit, but I think getting a drop off was actually an improvement. Just hit the targeting reticle to initiate the drop, I guess. Okay. Let's see if that works a little better. Come on, torpedoes. Okay, so you definitely have to drop a little further out in front than I expected. Got 2 for 1 here. Let's see if we can at least get a shot on 1. We're gonna follow this in. I'm gonna evade, bugger. He's gonna evade. Uh-oh, we gotta steer our... Oh, we got a hit! We got 1 hit! Oh, this is pathetic. Oh god, we're in the AA bubble though, big time. Who do we want to target? Let's target this cruiser. Come on guys, get low. Low and not too slow. As we get closer, the reticle closes. Okay. Not have a lot of planes survive that attack. Okay, you really need to drop further ahead of the ships than I would have expected. How about this cruiser here? That's all the planes. We're gonna get 1 more hit. Maybe 2? 2 more hits. Alright, we'll take it. Boy, that was a real challenge figuring out the lag between control input and the turn of your planes. Kind of like the lag between the rudder input and the turn of your ship. So, got a little better there in the back half of the game, but I commit for the first half of the game, I had no freaking clue what I was doing whatsoever. So first impressions of game 1, guys, that was very, very different than I even expected, honestly. The control scheme, there's a lag input into it on your air surfaces the same way there is with regard to rudder. So for the first few minutes of the game, all I was literally doing was S-turning back and forth, just trying to get a feel of how the planes turn. There's definitely more dynamics to that than I thought there would be. Secondly, have to learn that you have to hit the trigger once, the attack trigger, to actually initiate your attack run. Just slowing down over the enemy ships is not enough to do it. You have to pull that left trigger, I think, 1 time to actually initiate your attack run, and then you have to lead your torpedoes. I'm going to stick with torpedo bombers for a little bit here just to get used to it, to get your lead down, and your lead is more than you think. It's not like the torpedo indicator in a ship where it's telling you where to aim. It's just showing you the path of your torpedoes and how that angles closer, and the spread narrows as you get closer to the enemy ships, but also closer to their AA bubble. So I hate to say we only managed to get 3 torpedoes, but 3 torpedoes, I guess, is better than none. And the good news is, even though we really sucked, we actually did a little bit better with regard to our team standing versus our opponent, but that's not saying a whole lot in game 1. So anyway, that was fun. Let's give it a shot and see how game 2 goes. All right, folks, after our first few games, we noticed that WG posted on Twitter a link to a carrier's quick start guide. So let's talk through some of these things while we try another match. We do have to steer our carrier separate of planes, so we're just going to try to get it started out, moving closer to the enemy team, but not closing in so quickly that we immediately start taking fire. First point of their little tutorial is to select your squadron choice. You use the X or the square button on PlayStation to choose between torpedo and HE bombers. We're going to go with torpedo bombers for this first match and second match just to see if we can improve on our results. So to take off, we're going to use the right trigger or RT on PlayStation. And all of our flight controls, as confirmed by this quick start guide, are on our left stick. So as the little tooltip there shows, to speed up and slow down, we're going to push forward and back, trying to avoid overheating the engine. And then we can steer side to side using the left stick, left and right. Now as we approach, we're going to want to try to avoid the flak bursts. The flak bursts are going to deplete the health of our planes and shoot them down before we can initiate an attack. And with torpedo bombers, we have a couple key things. We want to get a perpendicular angle to the ship we're attacking. So let's see if we can hone in on this cruiser over here. He's probably going to get taken out by a destroyer really quickly. So let's pick this cruiser here. We're going to come in at a perpendicular attack. We're going to use right trigger or again RT to cause 2 planes to break off. Initiate an attack run, and then we're going to narrow our aiming cone here, or rectangle, and that timer that's counting down to 0, we've got to launch before that timer hits 0. So let's go ahead and do a drop, get out of dodge so we don't get too much flak, and we didn't give enough lead. Okay, there's a battleship. Let's try it on him. Lead out in front. Torps away. Hey, we got 2 hits. As close to 0 as we can. Drop away. Kaiser has pretty good AA, as does the Texas. Watch out for those suckers. We saw what a Texas can do in our first game. Just notice there's more lead required than you would think. Once those torpedoes hit the water, they're going to go substantially slower. And do we get a hit? Yes, 2 more hits. This is better. Swooping back in. So isn't it amazing what a little bit of documentation can do? After having a chance to look through the 6 quick tips from WG in their quick start guide on carriers, we were able to triple our torpedo hit output. Still need to do work on the timing of the runs and the direction that we take to get the proper lead on those torpedoes, but a lot more fun in that game, actually having a little bit of clue as to what we were doing. From a team result perspective, we had a much better result. We finished in the upper half instead of being a bottom feeder, and that gets me a little bit excited here to go ahead and try one more game with some dive bombers and see how we can do there. Now the aiming process is supposed to be similar to the torpedo planes, but we want to now basically align our attack down the long axis of the enemy ships. And with The dive bombs, we're going to have much less time to organize our attack. I think there's only about 5 seconds on our timer instead of 12 or 15, something like that. So it's a much closer in attack that has to be initiated and have to do your drop quite quickly. And we're going to try to fly in significantly closer this time. Aim about 1 ship lead. One ship length. Okay, too close.
Negative.
It didn't go in.
Just impacting on the surface.
And bombs away. All right, we got 2 hits. Got to go back to our carrier. Relaunch. So guys, that's the secret with the dive bombers versus the torpedo bombers, is that you really have to initiate your attack much closer to the enemy ship. Okay, nabbed another hit.
Trust your feelings.
Yeah, there's a hit. Back to the trusty torpedo bombers. We should have a full squadron ready of those. They have recharged. And more comfortable to do drops with these torpedo bombers. So the little number indicator by each type of squadron will tell you how many planes you have replenished and ready to fly. Let's head for the last known position of their carrier. So we don't have fighter protection in Tier 3 for our attack squadrons, but we will get that through a consumable at Tier 5. Come on. There's a hit. Out of that anti-aircraft bubble, these carriers have some wicked AA. 1 torpedo hit and a flood. And we are out of planes because we have no CV. Well, in that third game, we had a much better overall damage result. We got 4 hits with torpedoes and 5 hits with bombs. I'm not going to lie, it took me a couple games in between to perfect or even approximate fudging my way through the HE bombing process. It's a much tighter timing between initiating that target, getting close, and dropping your bombs. So I'm finding that a technique that's going to be a lot harder to master than torpedoes. But overall, that was really fun. We had to also switch between our 2 different types of squadrons to make sure that we had a replenished type of plane, torpedo or HE bomber, where we could take off as full a squadron as possible. So overall, a better result. We beat out 3 of the bots on our team. Didn't beat out the humans, but that's okay. We actually contributed, and that felt a lot better. Well, after 4 or 5 carrier games, I can say I've been officially initiated, and now I know how the other half lives in World of Warships. From a first impressions perspective, I think this is a new and unique and different experience and really does expand the play styles within the game. It's a cool and different perspective from the air, seeing the detail of the maps and thinking through your strategies from a completely different speed and perspective. It's also a new way to apply the game knowledge you've accumulated after years of studying ship statistics on anti-aircraft bubbles and speed and maneuverability. All that stuff remains in your brain, but you have to approach it from a completely different avenue and angle to make it work as a carrier pilot. I also was excited that the graphics translated and worked on console. I know my Xbox One is not even the current generation now of console, and I think that overall, the game looked good. It was smooth, it was fun to play. I think some aspects of the anti-aircraft seem a little bit toned down with regard to the bursts of fire from the PC, but overall, the graphics translate and it works well on console. I also want to call out kudos for WG on taking a stepwise controlled approach for this overall CV launch. We start with a tier 3 game mode for a week, contained in its own separate container, so to speak, away from standard battles. Next week we'll add tier 5 carriers, and then down the road in a few patches we'll put in the tier 7s. I think that this is a smart way to build on early successes and keep things simple rather than complicating the entire game by throwing things into standard matches from the get-go with a full tech tree. So very, very happy with how the launch has gone from that perspective. Lastly, I think CVs feel relatively balanced within the game mode at tier 3. Now I'll tell you, I didn't have a lot of a big success attacking cruisers or destroyers. I know it takes multiple hits with a torpedo or a bomb to kill off a battleship, and multiple hits as well to kill a cruiser. So I think overall you're going to have to do some decent work in a carrier to pull your weight on your team, and it's not like it's a completely overpowered weapon. I think the carrier launch also brings some substantial opportunities as well. I know for me personally as a player, it's a huge mindset shift to go all the way back to square one, kind of forget the experience I've had for 4 years, other than the ship statistics and those sorts of things, and learn to replay this game. So feels really weird, feels really hard, but I can see the long-term value in, again, having a completely different experience by playing the carrier play style. I think from a perspective of gameplay, the single unit control is tough, especially for someone who's not used to carrier play in general. It'd be nice to be able to jump back and forth between your plane and your ship if you need to get your ship out of trouble without recalling your complete squadron back, but I'm sure that's something that will be approached going forward. This has been simplified for the test. The bots seem a little too good at killing one another in some games. Those games are over really quickly because bots are ramming one another or getting their job done too fast and really kind of toning down your opportunity to practice CV play. And the commander inspirations. I know we don't have a full tech tree of ships, we don't have multiple commanders or multiple nations yet, so I think right now the inspirations seem a little tough to use, but I assume that will round itself out after we come out of test. And lastly, I think the sound of the AA could be improved a little bit. The short range AA sounds a little tinny, kind of like a typewriter. I'm comparing it in my mind to my PC experience, so that's a little bit of an unfair comparison. I'm sure the sound will probably improve over time, especially with the next generation consoles. Well, that was honestly a surreal experience playing our first carriers in World of Warships in 4 years with the launch of the Airstrike campaign in World of Warships Legends. I think we went from absolutely hideous personally to somewhat capable by getting a few games under our belt and referencing the quick start guide tips from Wargaming. And I hope you got some value out of those points of interest as well that were provided to us by the developer. Hey, if you want more information on the overall February 2021 campaign, reference my video on that topic. You'll see more about the Dragon Slayer campaign for the Tier 7 cruiser Siegfried, the launch of the Royal Navy cruisers, and some other fun stuff in this update. And you can always catch me live streaming on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays on YouTube and Twitch under VannKraken. I just want to say best of luck to you in your carrier journey. Hope you have a great time playing through this new patch, and I want to thank you very, very much for joining us for this video. Have a great one. I am VannKraken, and I am out.